Harrigan is at the controls on the graphics computer right now, following a possible water spout that could become a tornado as it moves on shore. Right now, as you can see on Doppler radar, where the reds come up to the greens, this is where we could have a circulation occurring. And these are maximum winds, 48 miles an hour, right about Osprey, north of Osprey, Vamo to Gulf Gate, 29-mile-an-hour winds offshore. It's happening right now. So if you're living in this area, right about Osprey, northward to Gulf Gate, take shelter immediately. But this is a very fast-moving system that will move inshore and dissipate. You can see a look at the wind shear associated with this just offshore in the last few hours as it's moving onshore. It's beginning to wind down a little bit, but we still are not out of the woods yet. And in fact, as we've seen in the last year, once it moved inland, it could possibly intensify and continue moving farther inland. So right now we're concerned with a tornado warning in effect for the southern half of Sarasota County down to about Venice from this disturbance that's moving ashore. We're in the severe weather season right now with strong winds and possible tornadoes associated with this, 55-mile-an-hour winds associated with this wind shear, this possible vortex that is coming ashore right in the southern part of our viewing area. With winds of 55 miles an hour, it could cause significant damage. We look at the last available radar image, could be up to 6 minutes old. You can see it has now moved onshore north of Osprey to Gulf Gate, moving farther inland. And as it does, it could still intensify. But as we've seen in the last few images, we've seen a gradual strengthening or weakening of this system. A broader view shows it's a lot of rain offshore. This was very clear about 45 minutes ago. We could clearly see in that velocity mode with the reds and greens that there was a strong, potentially water spout offshore moving straight toward Venice, and then it took a more northerly course heading toward Osprey and even farther north of that between Osprey and Gulf Gate. You can see on radar that it is moving ashore right now with maximum winds around 48 to 50 miles an hour. The National Weather Service has a tornado warning in effect for about Fruitville southward to just north of Venice. Now we're seeing winds at 93 miles an hour estimated by radar images as this moves ashore just to the north of Osprey. I can't emphasize this enough. If you're just to the north of Osprey or from Osprey to Gulf Gate, take shelter immediately. Take shelter in an interior sturdy room. A bathroom would be a good idea, but do not be outdoors doing this, and don't go standing in your lawn looking up thinking this is something you can see. This is a potentially deadly situation with winds that strong moving right over Casey Key, it appears, heading inland to just north of Osprey with 93-mile-an-hour winds. And we thank Bob Harrigan for being there polling these wind speeds that we're getting estimates from radar images right now. It's not quite approached the trail, but keep in mind this radar image could be up to 6 minutes old, and you saw how quickly this cell was moving ashore. Wendy, you want to take another close look at this?
Once again, we've been watching this system. We've known about the fact that we were going to get the wet weather for the last couple of days. And so tonight we are seeing the manifestation of a low pressure system that formed out in the Gulf of Mexico and has been moving along a cold front that helped to bring in the showers that we've been seeing throughout most of the latter part of the day and into the evening hours. And this particular cell, of course, has developed, and this is the one that is giving us some concern. So once again, as Steve has said, if you are outside, get indoors, get to a place of safety. If you're in a mobile home, if you're just taking a walk with your dog, make sure you get back inside as quickly as you can.
Wendy, where would you say this is heading? Just north of Osprey. You can see it moving inland toward I-75.
Well, what you had mentioned was Casey Key.
Yes, and now we're seeing it
now we're moving it a little bit farther on towards the northeast around Highway 41, so we're seeing that as well.
Between Osprey and 75, we have a lot of communities through here, a lot of golf courses that are potentially threatened by this system moving in. Again, winds up to 90 miles an hour. This is potentially dangerous and potentially deadly. So if you are in the path of this, as you can see, dead aim at Osprey to the north of it, take shelter immediately. Go to a sturdy interior room, an interior bathroom. If you have a pillow to put on top of you in a bathtub there, that would be the safest thing you could possibly do. This is a potentially deadly situation. Wendy?
Yeah, and we are going to continue to monitor this situation throughout the rest of the night. So we're going to be on and off the air, bringing you updates as they're needed. And we want to make sure that you stay tuned to our station because locally we're We're going to be covering, we've got reporters out on the scene right now, checking out other areas that are taking place from Siesta Key all the way down through Venice. We're going to have reporters out on the scene just to make sure that we're seeing what's going to continue on.
Let's take a look at these wind speeds again. Bob Harrigan again is in there in the computer dealing with this. 90, 91 mile an hour winds, 73 mile an hour winds. That's enough to take a roof off a house. This is not something to be played with or not taken seriously. If you're living upstream from this in the direction of this system, take shelter immediately. And in fact, this could intensify further even if you're east of I-75. It's moving so quickly, you ought to be prepared to move quickly should we have to extend the warning farther east. But this warning is in effect for another 15 minutes until 9 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. This is a tornado warning in effect from about Fruitville southward to just south of Osprey. You can see this particular cell moving over the bay from Casey Key toward Osprey, north of Osprey to Gulf Gate, with winds over 90 miles an hour. Stay tuned to our station. We'll keep you posted on this. But right now, it looks like it's not winding down. About a few minutes ago, there was indication that this was kind of spinning down. The winds were a little weaker. But in these last images, you can see, and as Bob has been polling it, we have winds over 90 miles an hour, which could take your roof off, could cause significant damage if it moved right over top of you. The system could intensify further as it moves inland. It's right now, here is your warning area, the tornado warning area effect from about Fruitville Road southward to Venice, but not quite to Inglewood, and it's in effect until 9 o'clock tonight. We had seen earlier offshore this thing becoming very well defined about 7:45 tonight offshore, heading toward Venice, and then it took kind of a left hook, aiming more toward Osprey, and that seems to be where it's moving onshore right now. Again, take a look at the wind speeds associated with this, up to 90 miles an hour, and you can see how extensive this rain is, expending offshore with a lot of lightning. And a lot of lightning in a situation like this is also very concerning, because that can be an indicator of possible additional rotation or tornadoes or waterspouts. We're looking at the radial velocity here. Again, the focus right now, we're not seeing anything offshore that would indicate any rotation, but that lightning does bother me. Right now, the indicated rotation is in the southern part of Sarasota County, right about Venice northward to Osprey, and it's now in the last radar image shows it moving almost to I-75. And again, that looks to me like we've got winds at least of 80 to 90 miles an hour, which could cause significant damage. This is not something that can be toyed with. If you're in the path of this from Osprey to I-75, take shelter immediately in an interior room. Cover yourself possibly with a pillow. Inside a bathtub would be the safest bet at this point, but do not be outdoors trying to look at this or chasing this storm. It's dark. You're not going to be able to see it until it's right on top of you. Right now, we've had winds 41 miles an hour. Bob is pulling it again right now, 23 miles an hour. So perhaps it is beginning to wind down as it interacts with the land, which causes friction with the rotation. We would expect that to happen. Right now, the cell is now between Osprey and I-75 as it continues to move on to the east-northeast at a very good clip. I think hopefully this will wind down further in the next hour. But now the focus of concern is not so much in the Keys or Osprey. It is between Osprey and I-75 and communities farther inland. Wendy is in realty, and you know much better than I do what these communities upstream might be between Osprey and I-75 and heading out to Myakka River State Park. What do you think the greatest danger is right now with 85-mile-an-hour winds, Wendy?
So what we're looking at, of course, as we've been saying all along, is that this system continues to move off towards the north and east at around 35 miles per hour, and we're going to continue. May have slowed down just a little bit in terms of its rotation, but it's still very, very dangerous. And you can see some of the areas that we're talking about, the McEwen Drive and McIntosh Road. These are some of the streets that are intersecting around this region. We also have Woodbriar Drive, so the communities that are located near these roads need to be mindful of what's going on top of you. And everything is moving off towards the northeast at this time. So we're still watching it moving in this direction. We also have Central Sarasota Parkway, that's in Lake Sarasota, that we're looking at, and we also have Pine Harrier, which is down to the south, and that's mostly in the community just escaped me. But what we are looking at is that this system is continuing to move off towards the northeast. This is mostly the Palmer Ranch community that we're looking at, which encompasses a large number of neighborhoods. So Palmer Ranch, you certainly are right in the thick of all of this at this time as the system continues to move off towards the northeast at around 35 miles per hour. And once again, the tornado warning is in effect until 9 o'clock tonight, which is just a few moments away.
And you can see the core of this windy. We have winds still probably over 90 miles an hour as it approaches Interstate 75. So areas further inland could still see an intensification of this storm, even though we've seen apparently a slight weakening. But as it moves farther inland, we could still see further danger for the next hour or so. But the warning is only in effect until 9 o'clock, but that doesn't mean the National Weather Service won't extend it or move it farther to the east. Winds right now 85 miles an hour. That could take a roof off a house. That could cause significant damage as it's moving toward I-75 and heading out to Myakka River State Park. These communities, as you mentioned, Wendy, at Palmer Ranch, top of you. Take shelter in an interior room. Cover yourself as possible with a pillow or a mattress, and if you feel threatened with this. And you can see there's a lot of rain with this. It doesn't appear that we have anything threatening immediately offshore, according to the latest radar images. But this is the cell moving from Osprey now to I-75, and will move farther inland in the next hour or so. The National Weather Service has that tornado warning in effect for our area, at least from Fruitville southward to just south of Venice, until 9 o'clock our time. Now we have an extension of that tornado warning just issued by the National Weather Service. It's now areas east. We're no longer under a tornado warning in effect in the areas earlier threatened. They feel the cell has now moved east of I-75, so it's these areas, Myakka City, Old Myakka, and that would be Myakka River State Park. Isn't that right, Wendy? We just think that's area right here. This is the area under a tornado warning right now. So the most densely populated areas along our sun coast are no longer under threat from this particular storm, but we do have a tornado warning in effect for this area. For the next probably half hour. We'll get you that time in just a minute, as that cell that moved ashore about 20 minutes ago is now moving eastward in a fairly unpopulated area. And you can see there is this core of it right now moved just east with 62-mile-an-hour winds. Bob is polling this again in the Weather Center. Perhaps right in the brightest areas we might have a little stronger winds than that, but for just a few moments ago we saw winds over 90 miles an hour, which could have done extensive damage. ABC 7 has our reporters on scene and moving to this area to see if any damage was done. But if we look at Doppler radar showing the area of greatest concern right now would be just south of U.S. Route 70, that would be 70, out toward Myakka River State Park. But again, I think Wendy lives not far from here.
Yeah, and I'm paying attention, let me tell you. You know, it's interesting how very quickly things change and how rapidly the system has moved. You saw it just 20 minutes ago, it was out in the Gulf of Mexico, and now quickly now it has moved off towards the east, now east of I-75. We're looking at wind speeds of 27, 28 miles per hour to 59 miles per hour. So it appears as though there's a bit of a winding down now with this entire system. Lake Sarasota, Bee Ridge Road, this is all around that Lake Sarasota area, moving off towards the east, and we're going to continue to see this moving away. Keep in mind that there is a brand new tornado watch, a warning that has gone into effect. So that tornado warning now probably in effect for another 30 minutes.
No, it's going to end at 9 o'clock. It's going to end at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so we're watching the system now. It's affecting Myakka State Park, and it's also affecting parts of Lake Sarasota, east of Lake Sarasota, and it continues to travel all the way over to Hidden River, which is over much closer to the central part of the state.
We have to get back to the conclusion of The Bachelor. This has moved out of the immediate threat area. This tornado warning is in effect until 9 o'clock our time. Let's get back to network programming to watch the exciting conclusion of The Bachelor.